Let's go straight over to Los Angeles to talk to our brilliant royal commentator there, over there on the West Coast. A stone's throw almost, as long as you can throw a stone a very long way, about 200 miles, from Montecito. Warm welcome to the great Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hey, Kev. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. You've highlighted me to something rather interesting. Earlier in the week, we discussed the excoriating Vanity Fair article, 8,000 words, which basically tears apart the Harry and Meghan fairy tale and particularly lays into Meghan. It's not a hatchet job. It's not a down-market hatchet job. Vanity Fair doesn't do that sort of thing. This is a thorough investigation accusing Meghan of bullying staff to the extent that some of them had to go into long-term therapy. That's quite an allegation. Neither Meghan nor Harry have denied it. They've just said that this article was distressing. I'm sure it was. In this article was this, there you go, American Hustle. Not exactly a flattering headline, is it? They basically say that this couple are hustling their way through life, you know, trying to make a buck on the back of their royal status and not doing very well, to say the least. But in this article was the extraordinary story that neither confirmed nor denied. There's no record of it in emails or documented or written down. But the story was that Meghan got a flunky to sort of shop around publishers to see whether there might be interest in a blockbuster post-divorce book. The article also said that Harry and Meghan were madly in love, so I'm not sure how much store we put by it. But Vanity Fair wouldn't put that anecdote in lightly. That article would have been through a million lawyers time and time again. So there's clearly something in it. You've alerted me to the fact that Page 6, the famous gossip column in the New York Post, is reporting that potential book deal is already dead in the water. Explain.
It's not that potential book deal that's already dead in the water, Kev.
Okay.
Page 6 is reporting that Harry and Meghan's 20 million Penguin Random House deal that they signed in 2021 seems to have quietly dissipated. That is the story. It's, you know, Vanity Fair is clear in communicating the fact that this was a theoretical pitch that someone on Meghan's team was making. If there's ever a divorce, how much do you think this book would be worth to you? They were very clear about that. And when we spoke on Recollections May Vary, I thought you made a really great point in explaining that based on the amount of research and amount of attorneys involved in an article like this, how watered down must have that section been, considering the fact that it was rumors. So the Page 6 article says that Penguin Random House had higher expectations for Harry and Meghan. I remember those. Prince Harry and Meghan expected to pen a leadership book, Meghan's potential wellness book, a potential cookbook for Meghan. And the story is that, you know, this deal seems to have just slowly dissipated. Is it because of some of those allegations in Vanity Fair about how these two, their work ethic is incredibly questionable, their collaboration skills not so strong? Is that potentially why Penguin Random House no longer? So it could be, if Page 6 is correct, Spotify and Penguin Random House that have said, you know what, the return on investment's not here. We're going to move on. Yeah.
So, this is where I got my wires crossed, that it was apparently originally the money on the table potentially was a $20 million Penguin Random House book deal that the two of them signed in 2021. But an insider familiar with that deal has added that they haven't heard anything about a potential divorce tome by Meghan. So that would be where my confusion was. But interesting, though, a $20 million book deal. So back in 2021, Penguin Random House, one of the biggest publishing houses in the world, considered that these two could be publishing gold, that any book by them might make that company a fortune. Now, if the Page Six story is true, and by the way, that is a good gossip column, they tend to get their facts right. If this is right, then Random House, Penguin Random House have lost interest. They don't think that would be because they're not sure they'd get their money back. That's a real turn of events and a real indication that the Harry and Meghan brand is on the serious slide.
And I believe this because even the ghostwriter for Prince Harry's book, Spare, came out and said this was kind of a difficult process, you know, getting Prince Harry to open up and getting approval for everything that he wanted to include in the book. So Prince Harry's ghostwriter has alluded to the fact that Spare was not easily executed. And while commercially Spare was successful, the reality is Harry and Meghan, the interest people have in this couple it's really fixated on their relationship with the British royal family. And the royal family has iced them out over the last 5 years. They don't have any new content. There are no more secrets to share. Now, where I think that there's a contradiction potentially there is when Prince Harry was still kind of in fight mode. He did tell, I believe it was the Telegraph, that he removed almost 400 pages from Spare because he felt like it was too damaging to the family. So could that be another book? I don't know.
Blimey, I'd like to read those 400 pages if they were more damaging than what actually went into the book. They must be serious bombshell stuff, that.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that at the time. I even felt at the time like that was a threat and not necessarily a tease for a new book. But by the
way, Kinsey, who removes 400 pages from a book?
I'm not even sure he can read 400 pages. So
well, you can rest assured of that. He's probably he's now written more books than he's read, as in Spare. But seriously, well, he didn't write it, did he? There was another thing. But in terms of this actual deal, anyway, as you mentioned earlier, I'm just reading the New York Post Page Six piece. Who wants to read a book on leadership? Well, what is their obsession with leadership? Didn't they make a program?
Well, Kevin, that was an option. That was an option in March of 2020, before they both viciously attacked their families. That was an option before we knew who they really are. And now we know who, because he could have come at it from a perspective of his time in his military service. I mean, he could have tried to pull that off. My mother passed away. I've overcome so much grief, but now we know that these are two people that perpetually live in victim mode. They have both alienated their families, both sides of their families. We don't aspire to be like two people that are constantly fighting with people, that are dramatic, that are troublemakers. We don't aspire to be people like that. So, that leads to the question, will Meghan's show be a success when we don't aspire to be somebody that is not liked, is villainized, and people don't really aspire to be like her? But I think that those were options for them prior to us seeing their true colors. But this article says, and I am confident that this is true, Penguin Random House, Netflix, and Spotify signed these big dollar deals with these two individuals because they were under the assumption that they were going to get the Oprah interview. And Netflix is really the only one that got anything similar to that. Spotify was like, we don't want to hear you complaining about Austin Powers. We're killing this deal. And Penguin Random House has kind of realized they got everything out of Prince Harry that they possibly could want. And what's left? I think that they're limited as to their appeal right now because this victimhood narrative that they just dwell in, and the ugliness of, how they treated the Queen and Prince Philip towards the end of their lives. People are having a hard time forgiving and forgetting.
Yeah. Didn't they make a documentary on leadership? Didn't Harry do that?
Live to lead, live to lead, yeah.
What is this? What is it? What do they mean? But what leadership? What's that about? Why is he so obsessed with leadership? I'll tell you why he's obsessed with leadership, because he thinks he's a leader. Do you know what leadership is about? It's about, oh, leaders are brilliant, and if you're not a leader, well, you're just a prole. It's his obsession with status, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is his obsession with status, but I also think that he was probably guided by counsel to head in this direction to justify the $50,000 to $100,000 lectures that we were originally told that they could secure, that they have yet to secure. Remember when they left the royal family, everybody was saying, man, they could get probably $50,000, $100,000 for a speech. He going and talking in front of huge corporations. I think that people advised him that that was a way that he could go. But when you write a book talking about your tallywhacker, people are going to have a hard time
your
taking
frozen tallywhacker.
Yeah. People are going to have a hard time taking
I've never heard that one before, by the way. Tallywhacker. Okay. But I get your point. Let's move on. Let's talk about look, Harry's done it again. They're just not getting the memo, these two, are they? So, was it last week, beginning of last week, they go down to fire-ravaged Los Angeles, to Pasadena, and they are pictured photo-opt, sifting through the wreckage, walking through the embers of destroyed houses, hugging victims and all that. The people of Los Angeles reacted with disgust. Most of them were appalled. They just said these two are tragedy vultures, grief grifters, disaster tourists. So they were basically told, look, this is not the time for celebrity photo ops. Please go away. Meghan, of course, turned up the very next day for another photo op, carrying big bags of supplies. So she didn't get the memo, so people jumped on her again. And now Harry's done it. He's gone to meet some firefighters who risked their lives in the Los Angeles fires. They're the firefighters who used dogs to help them. So there's all these pictures of him shaking hands with firefighters at their depot and stroking the dogs, and it's like a royal visit. And you think, why? What is this for? Why is he doing this? I mean, apart from looking a little bit like, just like they did last week, that he's somehow cashing in on the LA fires for good publicity. What does he think he's doing? I wrote something today which suggests, I've got this feeling that the only thing he knows is like regal visits, royal visits, VIP visits. And so he's reverting to that. He's just making visits because that's what he knows, that's what he does. And somehow or other, he's trying to recapture the glory days when he was back in Britain as a frontline royal and his regal visits actually mattered. Because this doesn't matter. It's just not a very good look. What's it all about?
Well, I talked to Duncan Larkham today, who explained to me that when actual royals show up at events, tragic venues, that they've been invited.
Yeah,
Somebody's
absolutely,
asked them. Yeah, they've been invited. Somebody's asked them. And there's no way that the mayor of Pasadena got on the phone with Harry and Meghan and said, could you come take a tour? I mean, to quote Justine Bateman, who told Piers Morgan recently, I don't know who these people are. I don't understand why they were there walking on possible human remains. I mean, it's... really, it was so fresh when they decided to make their nearly 200-mile jaunt down to Los Angeles to stand in front of the flash bulbs. But I mean, I was less offended by Prince Harry's visit because, and even Meghan's solo visit, because it was away from the cleanup. It was away from people that were trying to do a job. It was not disruptive. What they did in Pasadena was they interrupted volunteers trying to do their jobs so that they could have their, allegedly, so that they could have their photo taken
Yeah.
And that is a waste of resources. And we are resource crunched here right now. We are in desperate need.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily, you know, I'm not offended by his visit to the Salinas Fire Department, nor was I particularly offended by Meghan turning up on day 2 with bags full of supplies. I thought it was a bit tawdry, a bit tacky. You know, look at me, aren't I an angel? But, you know, I wouldn't say offended. But, you know, I just thought it was tasteless, and a lot of people in Los Angeles actually thought it was appalling. They thought it was disgusting that somehow or other that both of these people were trying to get themselves good publicity to look like angels on the back of everybody else's tragedy. It wasn't a good look, to say the least. And I'm certainly not offended by him going to see the firefighters at Salinas, but I'm bemused. Why?
Well,
What does he think?
right.
What does he think he's doing?
There was the section in the Vanity Fair article who said a person who knows the couple believes that Harry would be happy for Meghan to make all the money and he concentrate on charity work. And that's exactly what you described. Prince Harry wants to pop up, shake hands, kiss babies.
Because it's all he knows. It's all he knows, isn't it?
And then he wants to go back to Montecito, light up a blunt, and play a video game. That's, you know, that's where his heart is. But you know, I think that he just, that's, like you said, that's all he knows. That's his comfort zone. He doesn't want to walk the red carpets. And you know, when it comes to this push and pull and real fight against the press, you don't see Meghan Markle fighting that battle. And we hear stories about people close to Meghan allowing People magazine to report that Meghan wants him to end all of this litigation. Why? Meghan knows she needs the media. Meghan desperately needs the media to talk nicely about with Love Meghan. Meghan's played this game longer than Prince Harry, and Meghan wants to be loved by the media.
Yeah. Last question to you, Kinsey. Well, we know that now that it's been postponed, With Love Meghan will come out on Netflix on March the 4th. Now, this is make or break time for her. And this Vanity Fair article, this comes on the back of September, when the Hollywood Reporter revealed, or they interviewed 12 former staff members. One, I think, was a current staff member. And we got these stories accusing her, Meghan, of being a tyrant in high heels, who had tantrums at 5 a.m. and reduced grown men to tears, that she was a bully, that she was a monster as a boss. Now, here we are in January, and Vanity Fair has basically levelled the same allegations against her, that she was an awful boss who played awful mind games with the staff, reducing some of them to having to quit early and go off and take long-term therapy. I mean, that's quite a charge. So this bullying picture seems to get stronger every day. Don't forget, she was accused of bullying when she was back in Britain, bullying members of staff, making Kate, the Princess of Wales, cry at one point, and so on and so on. So these bullying allegations have been sort of almost getting stronger over the years, and they've really reached a crescendo now with Vanity Fair, a very respected publication, not a sensationalist tabloid. This investigation, 8,000 words, was thorough. So my question to you is, can she really recover from that and establish herself as some kind of showbiz titan in Hollywood? I don't think so. I think that she ought to look in a different direction, because I think that this Vanity Fair article has put paid to all of her Hollywood ambitions.
I think she just needs to be honest with all of us. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Heidi and Spencer Pratt,
of course,
but they were the villains in The Hills.
Yeah,
they
lost their house in the LA fires, didn't they? Yeah.
They completely lost their house in the fires, and Spencer makes almost $20,000 a week on TikTok from fans that just love them, because they are I mean this in the nicest way possible. They are shameless, and they're authentic, and they are honest. And Spencer's like, we want money. They've never lied about who they are. And I think that it's benefited them. Meghan just needs to come out and be who she really is, because
Are you sure that's a good idea, Kinsey?
I think she needs to embrace the B word. I think that's where she needs what she needs to
Be
do.
what she is. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. You know, at least
I'm telling you, Kev, when former employees that signed NDAs are watching her twirling around a kitchen talking about how one of her magic traits is making people feel special, they are going to be so irate that they rip up that NDA and they call up Inside Edition or they call the National Enquirer and they say, boy, do I have a story for you. The more she tries to push this sweet little girl image down everyone's throats, her victims are going to get fired up and they are going to rally. So she needs to, if I were her, I'd pump the brakes.
Yeah, I happen to know that certain members of her family are particularly furious at the moment that she was so keen to help all the victims of the LA fire, but didn't inquire after the welfare of her own family. So, yeah, I don't think she's got good times ahead. This series, when it comes out in March, I mean, nobody cares. Nobody cares about freezing edible flowers into ice cubes, picking petals and making cakes. I mean, that's not going to work. So
teach us how to land a prince. Teach us how to be the girl in the 90210 pilot doing what in the first 3 seconds of the scene and how to land a prince. Okay,
that's right. How to land a prince and marry them. That should be our next show. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Listen, Kinsey, fantastic to talk to you. Have a lovely weekend and we'll talk again next week. Kinsey Schofield there, the brilliant Kinsey Schofield over in Los Angeles.